Hello and welcome to Property Investment Blueprint podcast. I have our host here today, Kabir Habib. Kabir Habib is one of the fantastic property investors you could meet out there. He started his property investment journey at the age of 15 years old. And he really wanted to get into the property investment journey because he saw the benefit of it at an early age. So he was able to secure his first property deal, a deal source deal at the age of 15 years. Again, it's just a mind-blowing thing you would ever think about when you think about the age he started. I remember him sending messages, Facebook and all that sort of thing, telling people about how he wants to get into property investment. And then at the age of 16, at the age of 15, actually, again, he secured his first rent-to-rent deal. And then obviously at the age of 16 years old, he was able to secure his first rent-to-service accommodation deal. So yes, Kabir, thank you so much for joining the Property Investment Blueprint. So I'm really here today to talk to you about your property investment journey, so you can help us inspire our audience or anybody else who's thinking of getting into property, to give them that little bit of nudge for them to start a property investment journey. So thank you so much for joining us today. Obviously, the story isn't as good unless people know where you came from and how you started your property investment journey. So could you kindly tell us, the audience, how you started and scale your service accommodation business to where it is today?
Yeah, so thanks for having me on. So yeah, I started at 15. I kind of found the idea of rent-to-rent kind of just online. So I thought it was interesting because it was kind of like something you can get into without like a lot of money, like, you know, not putting a deposit on a house. I thought it was something I could do. The only issues were that I couldn't have a contract under my name. I couldn't have a business account under my name, but I thought, you know, I can fix those issues by just putting it under someone else's name. So yeah, I got started and I kind of just went to free events, like a ton of free events, read a lot of books and stuff. And yeah, then I kind of just went around looking at different strategies, and I found service accommodation, and I liked it out of the bunch. So out of HMO and everything, I liked that the most. So then I kind of researched more, and I found a mentor who was able to teach me. And then yeah, I ended up doing my first deal at age 15. It was a 2-bed apartment in Canary Wharf, and I still remember it. I was actually at school when I found out that the deal was like all secured and done. I was on one of those kind of Chromebooks. I remember it was like the last lesson of the day, and I was just checking my emails, like my normal emails, and I got an email from the investor, and she said, you know, she just wrote, "Kabir, what's your bank details?" And that's when I knew, I was like, oh, you know, it's done. So I sent her the bank details, and yeah, the sourcing fee was in there, so I was happy about that. And then yeah, at 16, I took on my first unit. It was in Canary Wharf. It's a 1-bed. I still have it today. It does great. And the funny thing about that one was that as soon as I took it, the next day, national lockdown was announced. So I took that on like kind of like I'd say the worst kind of time in SA, but I'm glad I took it then, because it kind of taught me a lot about like SA and like how to like thrive in like a market where there's not a lot of bookings and stuff. So yeah, I took that on, and yeah, the first 2 months was hard, because of course with lockdown and everything. But then I was able to get the rest of the months booked out fully. And then yeah, from there I kind of started scaling up, taking on more units. And then yeah, now I'm just taking on like a bunch of blocks. So blocks are basically a bunch of, rather than one apartment, it's like a block of 5 apartments or a block of 10 apartments at once.
Wow.
And yeah, that's where I'm at today.
Well done, Kabir. I really admire you. As you know, I've been following you on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media platforms, and I see the comments and compliments you do to me as well. So you might be one of my youngest podcast interviewee, to be honest. So I think you've done absolutely amazing. And at the age of, what was your age? How old are you again?
Now I'm 18.
Okay, at the age of 18, to be able to secure properties like that. Now you're talking about block of flats and all that sort of thing. So I know people may be thinking, I need to wait until I am 18 or until I know I'm fully educated. I want to wait until I know I'm 100% certain on what I'm getting into. So looking back at the 15 years old, what would you say to people who are 15 years old who's thinking about investing in property?
Yeah, so I'd say just start. Was there when I was 15, a lot of people told me the same thing. When I asked them like how would I get into property, they say, oh, you have to wait until you're 18, and I'm glad I didn't, because I just turned 18 last month and I've already done a lot, so if I waited until I was 18, I still wouldn't have done anything by now. I would have just wasted 3 years. So my advice is just start. Of course it's not going to be easy, and I'm not guaranteeing everyone's going to take on 100 properties, but if you start, at least you'll get somewhere and you'll learn some stuff. And that's what I did when I started. I just started and just said, okay, I'll see where it takes me. And yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that. So now at the age of 15, you've started your property investment journey. So what are the difficulties you faced, and how were you able to overcome those difficulties so that then people who are in a similar age now wanting to take that leap of faith would be able to overcome?
Yeah, so the main issues with being under 18 were you couldn't have a company under your name, you couldn't have a business bank account, and you can't sign a contract. So what I did was I just put it under someone else's name, who was 18 plus. So the company under the name, of course the business account be under the name, and then of course any contract, like for example my first apartment, the guarantee deals and the contract will be under their name. So my advice is that you can do it. It's just that you would have to find someone willing to do that. And yeah, you shouldn't make an excuse, but I feel like that I've known a lot of other teenagers who also kind of started at the same time, but they kind of left. They thought, oh, I can't do this, or I have to be 18. But I was like, nah, I just need to find one person, and just kind of, yeah. Once I have that, it's kind of from there, it's kind of, all those problems are sorted, and I could take on an apartment.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that, Kabir. And as I'm aware now, you are still at college, if I'm correct, right?
No, after year 11, I just left school. Okay. It was kind of like I'll just do this full time. So okay. I didn't really do school, so I was kind of, yeah.
Right. Okay. So basically, you're doing property full time now. So you've quit the traditional education, and then obviously now you are into property investment full time. So how were you able to actually scale your business from having a one property to having these blocks of flats, blocks of service accommodation? How were you able to actually juggle it? Because some of that time you were at school or college, and now you are managing about maybe over 15 or say 16 apartments. So how are you able to actually scale that business to that level?
Yeah, so what I did was that I started using investors, or they're called joint ventures. So I remember my first JV was actually my mentor. It was a studio apartment in Canary Wharf. So the way it works is that they would put all the money in, and then they would make a percentage of the profits. So like if there was a one bed and it cost, I don't know, 4K for all of the costs, they put it in, but then they would make profit of the a split of the profit. So that allowed me kind of to like take on more units. And yeah, I kind of used JV partners to kind of take on more and more quicker. Because I had the deals there. It was just that I was just getting JVs to finance them. And also I built trust with investors. Of course, I shared stuff online, which also helps. Like for example, now, actually the day before yesterday, there's a block of 5 units in Battersea I'm taking. And I was able to raise.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, so I was able to raise 37,500 from one investor. I think it was within 5 minutes that I posted it. I had the money in my account. But again, that's all about, I think, trust and kind of just sharing online so that people get to know you. But yeah, that's what I do now. I kind of work with these big investors to take on whole blocks. Yeah.
Fantastic. That is really, really mind-blowing. At the age of 18, you're talking about taking another 5 blocks of flats. So really, really well done on that. So how are you able to manage all these properties? For the people are thinking, whoa, that's lots of properties. So how are you able to manage it?
Yeah, so what I first do is in terms of guests and bookings, I target longer term guests rather than a bunch of one nights. Because with long-term guests, it's easier because it's not like every day there's someone checking in, so every day there's a clean, there's more turnover. With a long term, for example, if I have a guest who books for 30 nights, it's kind of more secure and stress-free because it's not like a bunch of cleans and stuff. So I kind of aim for long terms with all my apartments, and that's what I did at the start. Was that when I was scaling up, from one unit to another unit, I was kind of just targeting long term so that I didn't have to worry about the other units. They were all booked for like 2-3 months, so I could focus on scaling. And of course, now I've got cleaners and stuff that clean the apartments. I'm hiring some VAs as well to take care of guest communications. So, but at the start, I did go around clean myself and stuff. Like there was times where I'd like wake up, hop on the train, and go clean the apartment and all of that. But yeah, now it's more kind of outsourcing all of that to like other people and whatnot.
Right, well done for doing that. So your target market basically is long-term guests to stay in your apartment or say your block of flats. So what's your clientele, and how are you able to reach those long-term guests?
Yeah, so mainly I'd say guests who are like staying for relocation, or maybe they're waiting to move into the new house but it's not ready, but they have to move out from the old house, so they kind of have this like month where they don't know where to go, so but they want a home from home feeling. They don't want to stay in some small hotel room, they want to stay in like an apartment where they can cook and stuff. And then I also have like international guests who are working. I also have my longest long-term guest is actually a 12-month guest staying in my 2-bed, and he's a patient at a hospital. So it kind of all varies from London is a big area, so it's kind of like, and I have apartments in like different places in London. But yeah, I'd say mainly they're kind of working guests, or like they come in here for maybe a treatment or something like that. But yeah, they're all like professional and nice, and no issues kind of guests.
All right. So okay, thanks very much for that as well. So which platforms do you really attract these guests? Because most of us are going on Airbnb, Booking.com, TripAdvisor, etc. Do you use specific website to target this sort of clientele?
Yeah, so I use Airbnb, Book.com, and Verbo. Those 3 are the main ones. I do listen to others like Expedia, TripAdvisor, but they don't really bring in that much kind of bookings. So I just use the other 3. Then I also use Google My Business Listings, which I've gotten more direct inquiries. So people just message me through the website saying, do you have these dates available? Or like, for example, I had 2 long-term bookings from my website because they just found me online. And yeah, they kind of just come through there saying, do you have an apartment available in this area for like 30 nights? And then I get in contact with them. So it's kind of Google My Business, Airbnb, Booking.com, and Verbo.
Right, fantastic. We do exactly the same as well. So how we tend to get our long-term guests is basically once the guest books the apartment, we will go into their profile. We know what the reason of the visit is basically. So if we see it is for a business, so what we do after hosting them that period, we will give them a call asking them about what they think about our apartment, what their reviews and feedbacks are. and then obviously ask them if they have any contract jobs around the area, or if they're coming back. So in most cases, most of the contractors are always coming back. So basically, we get their details that way, and then we exchange details. So what they do basically, whenever they need accommodation in our specific areas, they will contact us then, and then they will ask us what days we've got available, so we can block those calendars at those days. And then obviously we then book them in. So we use that method as well. And then obviously now we've got some of our properties, as you said, we have 6 months, 7 months, some of them we've got 8 months, some of them we've got 12 months. Contractors, purely contractors who are just coming around wanting to stay. The company booked it. The company then tend to change their own staff as and when they want to use that apartment. So that also is working really, really, really well for us. So I commend you for actually thinking it that way, because most of the service accommodation, as you know, out there are looking for a 1 night stay or maybe a couple of nights stay minimum. But you go in the long term, I think it's better in 2 ways. One, your repair and maintenance cost may be lower, because there's less likely to get people to party in your properties. And the people coming to these properties are literally mature people that know the value of properties. And again, it saves you on your cleaning costs, as you said, because the more turnovers you have, obviously the more cleaning sessions you would need as well. And I guess it saves you on your utility bills as well. So yeah, well done for that. Really, really appreciate you sharing that with us. So I just wanted to ask you again also, what does rent to service accommodation investor know that a normal property buy-to-let investor do not know?
Yeah, so with service accommodation, it's a high cash flowing strategy or business, because instead of per month, it's mainly like you do it per night. So you charge a guest per night. So it could be like £100 per night, £80 per night, or £130 per night. Because you're charging per night, you can kind of generate more money in terms of cash flow, rather than like a buy-to-let would be like, it would be way lower than SA. But I think if you're looking for something that's going to cash flow you a lot, I will say SA is a good strategy to go down. It is a lot of work depending on if you manage yourself. If you outsource that, then it won't be that much work. But I'd say overall, SA is a very good strategy, and that's why I got into it compared to others, because cash flows are very good. And also it has other benefits like, guests, they don't have AST rights as long as you get certain things in place. So, if a guest says, well, I'm not leaving, it's like if you go to a hotel and you like the room, but you have to check out today and you're like, actually, I like this room, I'm going to stay for a week, but not pay. They'll just kick you out the hotel, but with somewhere where you live and you have like AST rights, if you say I'm not leaving, you can't just go in and kick the person out, because they have rights. You have to go through a whole process just to get them out, and that can be costly and waste time. But with guests, as long as you get certain things in place, if they don't want to leave, you just kick them out. So that's also another benefit. No issues like that.
Yeah, fantastic. And the other benefit also, if you have properties, an apartment in Manchester, Birmingham, for example, if you ever want to go on holiday, you can just block one of those dates and use the property as service accommodation as well. So most of our service accommodation, again, they're doing really, really well. During the pandemic, we did have short-term guests on a monthly rolling contract there. But after that, it's really, really doing well. In average, we're about maybe 85 to 90% occupancy rate. So I understand where you are coming from, really. So I call it a cash machine. Okay. In the courses I do, I tend to call SA as a cash machine, because I haven't seen any other investment in properties when it comes to rental that generates you more cash flow than service accommodation or holiday let. So in average, then, what would you say a rent to service accommodation property would generate a year in your investment area?
Well, it would depend on the apartment. That I have studios, 1 beds and 2 beds, and some 3 beds. But on average, on average, I'd say minimum I get for any of my apartments per month now would be around £750. The highest would be my 2 beds, which sometimes they make around, I think the best month for my 2 bed was around £2,000 profit per month. So it kind of varies, but that's, I'd say around £750 to maybe max high end £2,000 would be the thing.
Wow, that is mind blowing. You know, it's £2,000 a month. You're talking about £24,000 a year, and looking at it, earning that money from a property you don't even own.
Yeah,
it's an absolute no-brainer. This is the reason I'm banging on people to get this property investment going, because literally it's no-brainer. I started exactly the same way. I started by taking on rent property deals, rent the rooms room by room, and obviously make £500 to £600 a month, and then obviously save that money, go and get more of these properties, and then get JV, joint venture investors involved. And I was able to expedite my property investment journey. Exactly like what you're doing. At the age of 18, you're talking about 700 or 800 or say £2,000 a month net cash flow in properties that you don't even own. It's mind blowing, and I can't really wait to see you start buying and flipping properties or actually holding them. So really, really well done to that, Kabir. Really appreciate that, sharing that. Your enthusiasm, energy is what draws me to you. When I first saw you online, what really keep you going without losing that energy and enthusiasm?
Yeah, so the thing about property is that there's a lot of bad days, I'd say, compared to good days, especially at the start. I think the idea that, you know, life is what it is, stuff happen. That whenever anything bad happens, I think, you know, there's no point of stopping. Like, that's not gonna help me. So might as well just keep going. Like, even at when I first started out and, you know, like contacting agents and they would say like no, you know, I was saying, well, if I stop now, then, you know, what's the point? You know, like I've already sacrificed a lot of hours to kind of do this already. So if I stop now, then you know, that's all wasted.
Yeah.
So I just kind of kept going until I got my first yes. So, you know, I'd say kind of just keep going, you know, and you know, the hard days at the end of the day, that's part of the kind of journey. It's not going to be easy. Most of the days it's kind of just like you're down and, you know, it's like you're getting a lot of no's, but everyone, you know, even the people who have around 1,000 units, they started the same way. And if they stopped, then they wouldn't have gotten to, you know, that number of units.
True. Absolutely. Same here. From when I started my property investment journey, it took me 7 to 8 months to get my first deal, but I never gave up one single day. So what I do when I get headbangs, I go back and review the question I've asked them, how I approach them, and try to improve from there. And then I keep doing it until I hit my first property. Once I've hit my first property, everything else become obviously history. And I then educate myself, invested a lot in me. So I'm going to be honest with that. I went to property courses, have my mentor and a coach. That then expedite my property investment journey to the next level. So I really see where you're coming from there. Really well done having that energy to actually keep you going. You talked about hard time at the beginning, maybe during COVID or maybe a hard time in your own life. I am definitely inspired by people who overcome hard time. Do you mind sharing a time or event that was really hard time for you and how you overcame it?
Yeah, so I'd say when I first launched my unit, legit the exact. So I launched it, and the exact next day, they announced national lockdown. So this was like everything was closed. No one could come into the country. You know, not even pubs or anything were open. But everything was just shut off. You know, and I was getting no inquiries or bookings. And of course, I'm 16. You know, and the rent's like £1,500 a month. You know, so it's like, you know, I have to pay that per month. But I'm 16, so I don't really have money. So I guess that was kind of a hard thing. But it was kind of like a hit on the face. But I guess I'm glad it happened because it kind of teaches you the hard side of this business. A lot of people think it's easy. You just get an apartment, and you just list it, and you just make a ton of money. But yeah, and the way I got over that was that I kind of focused on the marketing side of it. So I joined a marketing consultancy firm, and I kind of worked with them to kind of get the unit filled. And I wasn't really focused on profit then. I was kind of just focused on covering the costs, and whatever on top was kind of like an add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was able to get someone in there and make. I think it was like, I think they booked for 2 months, and I think it was just over £300 profit a month, which looking back, it's not great, but in lockdown, it was better than, paying the rent out of my pocket or something.
Yeah, which you wouldn't have anyways as a 16 years old.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it anyway, so it's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, so it must be difficult for you. But yeah, really well done to actually thinking outside of the box to be able to rent a flat. We did something similar as well, because what we've noticed during COVID was one thing we did basically is to speak to our landlord to tell them we won't be able to guarantee their rent anymore. But what we could do, we could get someone there temporarily to occupy these properties. So what we did basically is to contact contractors that were doing building roadworks, nurses, doctors, and again, marketing agencies that were able to actually take on these properties at over market rate. To be honest, we were able to make about £100 or so a month just to keep us going, because all we concerned were to pay our landlords whatever we've got to ensure that they are able to pay their own mortgages as well. So we were able to overcome the obstacle that way, right? Last main question, then we can do the quick fire round question. In the investment world, as you know, social media or society, I see the first world problem being overwhelmed. So many social media channels, everything getting thrown at you. People are buying houses right, left, and center, buying cars, sharing their own lavish life, doing everything online so that you can see how they're living. How do you deal with overwhelm? Because you've managed now lots of properties, right? How can people get rid of that sort of overwhelm and stay focused in their own sort of investment strategy?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when I started out, I saw like a lot of people posting, "Oh, I've just picked up the keys to this, that." But I'd say it's just focus on yourself. Everyone's story is kind of different. They're on different pages. So someone who's picking up, I don't know, 100 flats, at one go, they've probably done a lot to get to that stage, and you may just be at the start. So don't look at them and be like, "Oh my God, what the hell? I haven't even picked up one, and this guy's picking up 100 at one go." That person was probably in your stage, and they've probably gone through a lot to get to that stage.
Yeah.
Again at the start, it's like even me when, if I post that, I picked up the keys to a block of 10, it's not like, oh, all of a sudden it just happened. I just started yesterday. It's been like a long journey to get to that point. If someone's new, just realize that most of them have been in your shoes where you're at. It's kind of just focus on yourself and just keep going.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much for answering that. Fantastic. Okay, quick fire round question then. What's advice you remember receiving?
One advice was that is manage cash flow properly. SA is a very high cash flowing business, so once you start making money, you don't go start spending it on Louis Vuitton bags and stuff, because you never know, the next day a lockdown could be announced, and then you could have needed that money. So manage your cash flow properly, and only start kind of buying stuff like that once you feel comfortable. So don't start like splurging and stuff. Be smart with the money that comes into your business.
Fantastic. Best advice you remember receiving?
My best advice was that, I think it was don't kind of I guess it's just don't give up, because again, I've seen a lot of people, especially teenagers, kind of quitting, being like, "Oh, it's never gonna happen, I'm gonna quit," and I've had moments like that, and if I did end up quitting, I wouldn't be here, so that decision of like quitting, it would have stopped a lot of things from happening. So I think is, even if it's hard, just keep going, because you never know, you could be thanking yourself for keep going in the future. So just keep going.
Fantastic. And what was your inspiration growing up?
Growing up, I'd say growing up, I guess someone like Elon Musk, because he's been through kind of a lot of hardships. Like even in 2008, I think he was like 3 days away from his companies going bankrupt. So the amount of stress that he probably was at that time is it's crazy. So it's like, but he made it through it. So I think someone like him, is a big inspiration.
Fantastic. Who is your favorite sports star?
My favorite rock star?
No, sports star.
Oh, sports star. To be honest, I don't really watch a lot of sports, but I guess it would be. I guess if you count MMA as sports, it would have to be. I think Conor McGregor was. He's done a lot. So I guess my favorite sports star.
Thanks. Looking back at your 15-year self, what would you have done differently?
Well, I would have I think tried to start earlier. I think at the start I was kind of a bit nervous, so I think for a few months I kind of didn't take action. So I think if I would go back, I would start straight away. I'd also my first essay unit, it took me longer, like a long while to set it up, because I didn't have I couldn't drive or anything because I was underage, so I kind of had to like ask people, can you transfer furniture and stuff, or help me. So I think before I took on my first unit, I'd get all of that organized, and also like order stuff so that by the time I pick up the keys, everything's ready to go. And yeah, apart from that, I guess that's really the only thing that would change. Fantastic.
Your biggest regret?
I think my biggest regret was my first apartment. I decided to paint the whole apartment myself, and it legit took like 3 weeks just on painting, but I was doing it myself, and the paint job wasn't even that good. So yeah, I could have saved a lot of time if I guess got someone who knew what they were doing, just come in and paint. But I guess you live and learn. So yeah.
Of course. Yeah. Who is or was your role model?
I guess I'd say my mentor. Because again, without a mentor, I mean, you can do this without a mentor, but I feel like it would take way longer and you'd make more costly mistakes that you could have been avoided. So, with my mentor, he gave a lot of advice, even in like how to vet guests and stuff like that. I feel like I've declined so many guests over the years, that would have been parties that if I didn't get mentored, I would have just let them in, and you never know, they could have trashed the whole place. Could have got kicked out of the apartment because of noise complaints, so I'd say my mentor.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for that. Is there something you believe that lots of people disagree with?
I think at times I know, and this may sound weird, but I think at times it's good to talk yourself down rather than talk yourself up. I feel like some people, they get too hyped up. Like for example, if you start essay, you may see the money coming in and you just get too hyped up. And when you get too hyped up, you kind of feel like you've made it. So you start slowing down. So I feel like sometimes it's good to kind of talk yourself down so that you kind of don't get too like over, what's the word, like too on top of yourself. So you kind of keep level and you kind of keep going. That's what, again, being like 16 with an apartment in Canary Wharf or like, stuff like that. It's easy to kind of get hyped up and kind of slow down. You feel like you've made it. Because again, I could have, slowed down a bit. Oh, I've got one apartment, that's fine, blah, blah. But I kind of kept my head down and kind of said, okay, I want more. I want more blocks and this and that. Even now, I kind of do that as well.
Good. It is always to have that drive. The day you think, oh, I'm done it, I've made it, is the day you start going down the drain. Basically, you always have to be moving, progressing, improving yourself, so you can take yourself to the next level. Because if you're not growing, you are shrinking, basically. So I really like that mindset. So keep that going. That will really take you to further up the level. So what is the best book you've ever read or listened to?
There's a book called Untangling Success by T.J. Atkinson. A very good book. And it kind of gives you good steps on like keeping yourself accountable. And I'd recommend that book if anyone can like read any book. Does
money change you?
No. No, I don't think so. Kind of been still the same when I didn't have like the money and whatnot. So no, not really.
Does money make you happy?
Well, I guess it depends. I guess it brings you some things that bring you happiness. But I guess it also brings you a lot of kind of stress as well, because running a business as well, you got to deal with a lot of guests, and then you got to deal with this and that, and then even with like when COVID was going on, you have to deal with that. But I guess overall, I guess it does bring you more happiness if you have it, than rather if you didn't.
Absolutely, because obviously, touch base. If a family member is ill, you can literally cut a check and then pay for that. If they want to go on holiday, you can cut a check and pay for that. You can support your masjid, you can support your charity, you can support lots of people if you've got money. So it's not about you having the money, it's actually using it as a certificate to actually help the people and your community around you. That's what brings the joy to me. It's not about the actual physical cash, but it's about what I can do with money to actually bring that satisfaction to me. So for me, I think money brings you happiness. If you could resolve other people's issue, people that are struggling, and you can financially support them, to me, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there something you use to strongly believe you recently changed your mind on?
Is there something that I used to believe that I changed my mind on?
Yes, something that you used to strongly believe on, and you recently changed your mind on it.
I'd say, I think beforehand, I used to think that school was useless for everyone. But I think it's helpful for some. Now I think that it's helpful for some people, but for other people it's not. So it's not like it's useless for everyone. Of course, if you want to become a doctor or dentist or, I don't know, accountant, it's good. I guess it's good for you, even though I think there still can be improvements. But I guess it's helpful for some people, but for others, I don't think it's helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something in the world you fundamentally think is wrong and you would like to change? That's a difficult one, huh?
I think it's like I forgot the word. It's kind of like I think it's people. I guess it's like something wrong is that people kind of hating people because of other people who are similar to them. So like, I don't know, if someone's in a religion and they do something wrong, then they start hating on people in that religion. It's kind of like, we should look at people individually rather than if they, I don't know, in something like that. So I think that's something in the world where kind of a lot of people do, which I don't agree with. I think you should look at someone individually rather than looking at like what they believe or something like that and blaming that.
Absolutely, I support you on that. Every society, country, communities have good and bad people. So regardless what their religion or their culture or where they're from, it's all mixed. Okay, as I said, judge people in an individual basis rather than just painting them all in one brush and thinking they're all exactly the same. I really think that needs to change as well, right? So this podcast is called Property Investment Blueprint Podcast. what does property investment blueprints means to you?
I guess it's like property blueprint would mean like, I guess it's like I guess it's like someone like mentoring you or kind of giving you steps on how to do something, or kind of how to avoid something bad that they've been through and experienced. So I guess that's kind of like a blueprint to kind of like drive you forward, or kind of not make the same mistakes as someone else who's more experienced.
Thank you. Thank you. Final one. If there was only one person you'd love me to interview, who would that person be and why?
I think it's will be my mentor TJ Atkinson, because he's
What was
good
his
at
name?
TJ Atkinson.
TJ Atkinson. Okay.
Yeah, because he's very good. He taught me, and he's very knowledgeable, and he has a lot of stories on SA, like nightmare stories. He's very experienced in SA as well. So I feel like he'd be good to come on. Plus, he's good at talking about other stuff as well. And yeah, I guess he would be a good guest to have on.
Fantastic. Okay, no problem. What an amazing way to end, and that was a great special moment for me for having you in our show. Where should we follow you, and where are you hanging out in social media? If someone wants to contact you, say for example, want to advise on service accommodation, or just want to hang out with you, basically, which platforms or which social media platforms would someone be able to follow you on, or subscribe into?
Yeah, so I'm on Facebook, which is my full name, which is Kabir Habib. And then I'm on Instagram, it's the same, but with an underscore. So I'm mainly on those two platforms. I do have a YouTube channel, which is my full name again, but I don't really post on there at the moment. So yeah, that's where you can reach me.
Fantastic. These have been so good. You've been an inspiration to me, and I hope you've been an inspiration to our audience as well. Thank you so much for sharing your life passion with us. And I really love what you're doing, bro. I've been following you. I've been watching your full step. I've been watching all your revenues you've been sharing, what you're gaining from your service accommodation. So really, really appreciate you having you on board, sharing all these golden nuggets. I really hope we've learned a lot. But yeah, thank you so much, Kabir. I really, really appreciate you being here. And obviously, I look forward to meeting you in the near future.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for having me on here.
All right, thank you. Thank you.